Hi, my name's Liz Spencer, and I'm the director of the Westside Family Resource and Empowerment Center. And I welcome all of you tonight, and those who will be accessing this on our website. It's important information. Just a little bit about both Ireda and I. As she said, she's a parent of a young adult who has who's served and supported by Westside Regional Center and was part of the Early Start program. My son came just before the Early Start program started, but I was able to benefit from much of the early information, even though he kind of missed the supports. It's such an important program, and it's such an important path that you're going to begin on. And what we hope that you get out of this is just information on how to access those supports and services, as well as understanding that, you still have the same future, the same hopes, the same dreams. You're just taking a couple of different paths to get there. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to Ireda to get us started.
This is just the name of our center. A lot of people refer to us as WFREC. That's how we, are named under our social media. So that's our little acronym. And it just a little quote that is really important to me. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. And I think, at least for me, that goes with a lot of us. I'm a visual, I'm a hands-on person. So you can tell me as much as you want. You can try to teach me, but if I really do it, if if my hands are touching it, if I'm trying it out, it's a lot more easier for me to remember how to do certain things. And one of those things that I do often is take notes. I just have to do that to remember stuff. And a little bit of history about who we are. We were established in 1993, and we are open to the entire Los Angeles community. We're staffed by experienced parents, so we go through lots of trainings throughout the year. We have to attend conferences, and as systems change, new laws come into place. We get to know all of those good things so that we can pass along the best information to the families that we serve. We're all at our center, family members, whether we're parents. We have a sibling who was initially a mentor for our SIP shops, and now she's working with us. And so, we're a pretty diverse team. We also have staff that speak Spanish to help our families out. And so, usually when families call us, we try to see who would be the best link to, parent to link them up to, or family member at our center. Liz, did I leave anything out that you want to say?
No, I think that's a really good. I guess that I would add that in 2000, we had been the Westside Family Resource Center. And then in 2000, we were awarded a grant from the California Department of Education. So we became the Westside Family and Empowerment Center in 2000. That allowed us to go beyond the age of 3 and support folks in the school district setting. So think 3 to 21 or 26. And be able to support them through that transition into adult services. We actually are a center that serves throughout the life cycle. So we serve people from the very beginning to the very end, and their families.
I did want to mention that we're open Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. Right now, we pretty much follow the same rules, our protocol that Regional Center is following. We are not taking walk-ins, and we do take families via appointments, and we still do like home visits if needed. So we really do try to meet the parent at the level of need that they're at. But for safety reasons, we are, still not taking walk-ins every day. So if you wanted to meet with one of us in person, you would definitely be able to. You would just make an appointment to meet with us. Other than that, we have parents meeting with us over conference calls or Zoom. So there's many ways we can support you, if it's not in person. Okay. All right. Oh, and we are housed at the Regional Center. We're on the 3rd floor, but like Liz mentioned, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, we do have our own funding as well. And we're there to support the parents and our clients. This is our mission. We're dedicated to building strong community, provide information, resources, and support to families, professionals, and other members of the community, creating successful partnerships to enhance the lives of infants, youth, and adults who have special needs. We're big on empowerment. That's why we chose that as part of our name. We love to empower parents to become the best advocates they can for their loved ones. And a little bit about our funding sources. So as part of the California Early Start program, we provide parent-to-parent support and information and referrals for families of infants and toddlers who have been recently diagnosed and considered eligible for Early Start services. There's about 47 of us Early Start Family Resource Centers throughout California. So if you move or if you're not part of our regional center, there's definitely a family resource center that is probably serving the area you live in. And we cross-refer a lot. We partner with them. We sit in committees with them to provide the best support we can to our families. In this PowerPoint, when you get it, this is a live link that can take you to our FRCNCA website that can give you, the location to all those other family resource centers and just information more specific in terms of what we do. Liz, anything you want to add?
No, it's really, I think another important piece, we try to have this happen as consistently as possible. If you should call and need a referral, we do what we call a warm handoff. And the reason that you might need a referral is because you actually live in Laguna Beach and you're calling us. And so Ireda and I would call directly for you to the Family Resource Center in Orange County, and we would do what we call a warm handoff so that we know that you're connected and not just trying to chase a phone number. And that is woven throughout the state. So if you change jobs and you started in Los Angeles and then your family moves to the Bay Area or to Central California, we'll link you up with whatever family resource centers are there.
We've also helped families even with finding information when they move out of state. So our job is to also do research for you. We know how overwhelming sometimes life can be for everyone. And so we just want to give that extra support to our families. The next grant, well, we have a couple of grants, but the two main ones are the one I just spoke about and this one right now, the Family Empowerment Center grant, also known as the FEC grant, which was originally established through Senate Bill 511. And so this allowed right now to have currently 14 family empowerment centers, and they are coordinated through a partnership contract funded by California Department of Ed through the Special Education Division. And we are overseen right now by Seeds of Partnership. I also put their link down here. They have a lot of great resources and information. But essentially, this Family Empowerment Center allowed us to serve after the age of 3. It says up to 22, but like Liz says, we do through adult life. We can't say no because we know as parents that there's always transition, there's always changes, there's always things that happen where we need support and we want to be there for our families. So this grant allowed us to be able to provide support for people who maybe didn't qualify for regional center, but needed and still support for an IEP. For special education. So for an example would be if your kid's an early start and they turn 3 and, they're doing great. They just still need a little bit of speech support or maybe some OT, but they didn't qualify for regional center Landerman services. Then you still as a parent feel that you need that support. What is special education? Maybe the school district is not really as responsive as you wish they would be, or the program they offered you maybe isn't a fit for your child. And what are your rights? What do you do? We're there to help you. So once you exit Early Start, we're still there. We're still there to provide the support in many different ways and venue and avenues. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. That's part of our next slides. But yes, that's what this grant allows us to do, is to continue to support individuals who need special education, but don't necessarily qualify for regional center services. And with that said, some of the things that we offer are support groups, and parent-to-parent support offers parents the opportunity to meet and share information and mutual support. So we've found that when families share common concerns and experience, the support can be very uniquely meaningful. And we offer a variety of different support groups and ongoing presentations and trainings for our families. We don't have a lot of support groups, and we may not, as a parent, you want to make sure it's a fit. Not all support groups are going to be a fit for you, depending where you're at, in your life at the moment. You might want a group that focuses more on, education, or that focuses more on social meetings, or, you might want one that just gives training, or, whatever. And so as a parent, you want to just keep looking till you find the right one, because essentially support groups are where you're going to meet the best people and the most resources, because families want to share what's working and what's not working. And so you always get a wealth of information and support. A lot of our families at our support groups, that's where they've, build their little village, when, a lot of them don't have a lot of extended family members. And this is where they ended up having lots of friends that they can network with and make connections with. And now they have somebody that is a support system for them. So support groups are really, really important. The other part of this is parent-to-parent support. We were all at our Family Resource Center trained to be able to offer that. And, we listen, we provide that support, that guidance, those suggestions or recommendations when, the parent needs that. They need to feel that they can relate to someone, that person maybe walked their path at one point, or understands where they're coming from, and is not being judgmental. So that's where parent-to-parent is. It's a safe place for you to call, to come to have somebody listen to you and try to help you figure out, what your best options are. Want to say anything else, Liz?
I was just going to mention a couple of things. So my son, my first child, was born with a diagnosis of Down syndrome. And then as he got older, we found out he had pretty significant hearing loss. He also was born with a heart defect. And so there were three things I knew nothing about. I knew nothing about Down syndrome, nothing about heart defects, and I knew nothing about hearing loss. And I did know that I loved him in just an incredible amount of love. And I was so scared. And for the first 6 months, or I would say probably 8 months, we were fairly isolated, very isolated. It was before really, internet, cell phones, groups, things like that. And we had to stay isolated to keep him safe prior to his heart surgery. I didn't know anything about support groups or parent-to-parent support. I'd heard of different support organizations, but never in the context of raising a child with special needs. And when I was first introduced to them, they were so important to me. It was not only a sense of strength and community, because I wasn't the only person walking down this road. And I've learned it was perfectly healthy and perfectly acceptable to be afraid, to have moments when there was anger, and just uncertainty, and to be in such information overload. All of those things I didn't want to say out loud that I was. It was important to me that other families there said, oh yeah, and this is what I did when I felt that way, or this is who I talked to when I didn't understand the medical part. The other thing is that I learned pretty quickly is that I could connect with the other parents and get great information. on who the best therapists were, what the best preschools were, who to ask for as a service coordinator at Westside Regional Center, if the insurance company said no to something, how to navigate it. The best teachers and support for me were really the other parents who had gone down this road a little bit before me. I really just walked the path that they had created. So understand that, support groups offer many different things. As Rita said, some lean more toward emotional support, some lean more toward information and education, some do a combination. It's like anything else. You tried many, many different restaurants before you settled on the ones that you thought were your favorite. Think about that in terms of support groups, and that you're going to try a few out, and then you're going to find that one where that's where you feel the best at. That's where you get the greatest information. That's where people are in similar situations and can kind of guide you, be that guide on the side. So don't give up. Keep looking. Some are going to be disability specific. Some are going to be age specific, meaning birth to 3 or birth to 5. Some will be community specific, West Los Angeles, South Los Angeles, neighborhood specific. They don't all have to be disability driven. Think about different topics that you want to know about or you're struggling with. Maybe it's navigating schools or resources in the community or whatever. You'll find a group of people exactly in your position. So keep reaching out until you find your community. And that's what I would say.
With that said, this is the list of our support groups that we offer right now. And we have a Siempre Amiga support group that's in Spanish for women who are caregivers of someone, who has special needs. We have the Chat support group, which is for children and adults with ADHD. We have the African American Black Family Support Group, an Asperger support group, an IEP support group that's given in English and Spanish, the Ethiopian Family Support Group, and then we also have a couple of really good parenting series that we're doing with Claris Health and support groups through them that are focused on COVID isolation and strategies to help families emerge back stronger. Those are all on our link tree down here. So if you are interested in participating in any of those or our trainings, right now we offer the IHSS orientation in Spanish and English. IHSS stands for In-Home Supportive Services. We offer the different thinkers, different learners that gives different topics every month based on different things related to diagnosis or special education. And then, like I said, we have a breakthrough parenting series in English and Spanish through Claris Health, and an Empowered You series also that we're partnering right now with Claris to offer to our families. Our link tree this is a live link, will allow you to register to any of this. We will also ask for your email and send you our flyers directly so they can have them as well. But you can register through our link tree as well as follow us on social media. And I really do recommend you think about following us or the Regional Center on Instagram or Facebook, because not only do we remind folks about our upcoming groups and trainings or any new things that we're trying to sponsor, but also other things that are happening in the community with partnering agencies or, community resources on drive-ups that are giving away diapers or food banks that are, doing special events or fairs that are happening in the community, trainings and conferences that other agencies are offering that might be beneficial for you. So by following us on the social media platform, you're continuously going to get resources and information that we don't necessarily share via other formats. Okay.
Irada, I would add too to that when Irada spoke about the Breakthrough Parenting series, we oftentimes kind of, will kind of back off when we hear parenting classes or parenting series. It is 1 hour, 1 day a week for 10 weeks. And I guarantee you, it will improve your relationships with everybody, not just your children. It is, I wish so much that it had been around when my kids were young, but I sit in on every class that I do. I translate that to my relationships with my adult children, my brother, my nephews, my neighbors, my coworkers. It is just a really positive class to go through. I really encourage you all to, if you do have children, no matter what their ages are, no matter what their abilities, give it a try. It's really a great series.
And it actually, the first series starts again tomorrow, and it's from Liz, from 6 to 7.
Yes, Tuesdays from 6 to 7.
So the first series starts tomorrow. If for some reason it's not on the link tree, maybe Stephen, if you could email real quick the email to the families that are attending, I would more than happy send them tonight the information to that so they can register. But it is open to all ages. So it's not specific to an age group or specific to a diagnosis. It's for all abilities, all ages. And it's in English and Spanish. So how can we help you? This is a list of the different things that we offer at our center. Liz already, spoke and highlighted some of these items. But like I mentioned earlier, we're bilingual. And if we don't speak your native language or a language you're more comfortable speaking, we can definitely help get you the translation you need or the material you need in your language. We also provide transition assistance at all levels, whether it's from the regional center to the school district or to the regional center or to, from K to, elementary, and then from elementary to middle school, and then from middle school to high school, and even that transition from high school to wherever it is the young adult is planning to go. So we offer that support to parents. We believe being prepared ahead of time for those transitions is so helpful for everyone. You will get the supports that you need better. You won't be surprised when things happen. You'll have everything more in order. We do resource and referral, like Liz had mentioned earlier. We like to do those warm handoffs, or if not, we at least call different places before we give you numbers. With the last thing we want is to give you numbers of things that are closed or not working. We do have a disclaimer, like for example, it's only 5 staff, so we're a very small agency. So there are some things like our resource guide for our sports and our camps. That one is updated once a year. So unfortunately, we don't have the manpower to continuously call camps. We won't be able to call every single one of those, but we let you know that in advance. But when there's like a little referral, like from one agency to another, we do like to make sure that you are going to get that support you need at the other end. We provide and we believe in parent education. It's just a must. If you learn about the systems your child is receiving, you're going to be able to take advantage of everything they have to offer and use it to the max potential that you can. I always tell parents, read the instructions, read what rights you have, because I know sometimes we're overwhelmed, we're tired, we have so much going on, but, getting to know those systems that are helping our kids really will make your life easier when it comes to understanding what they have to offer and what your rights are. We provide community outreach and child find. So you'll see us at a lot of fairs. It's been so nice. We've participated in like 3 or 4 fairs now out in the community. And it just feels so good to be out there again, seeing people, handing out information, letting them know who we are, who the regional center is, ensuring that families, get to know that we're available in case they need us. And we also present at schools, at, other agencies, at hospitals, to educate those professionals about our services, about the regional center and how important those referrals are. We talked about the, parent-to-parent support, and that can also be through a warm line. So a warm line is where parents can call, if you need to just talk to someone, you've had a really tough day. Like I said before, you don't want to feel judged. You just want to be able to vent. That's what our warm line is. And then, we told you about our support groups and the importance of that. about our trainings, presentations, and workshops. Those do change throughout the year depending on our grants and what the community needs are, so please, if there's something that you really want to know about, let the regional center know, let us know, because we work on trying to bring information and resources and conferences and trainings based on the need of our community. And then we do systems of care navigation. So we're very familiar with most systems of care, like regional centers, Social Security, Medi-Cal, CalFresh. We know the basics of all that. So we can tell you the general information on what it's like and how to navigate it. We're more savvier in some systems than other. For example, with in-home supportive services, I'm the one who facilitates that training. I guide parents in terms of preparing to apply for that. And these are all things that you might not have heard about. In-home supportive services is like, for example, a system that helps provide pays the parents if the parents can't work to care for their loved one that has special needs. And so there's protocols involved with that, but that's why we offer these trainings. We offer this support when parents want to know what's available for them in terms of helping them navigate all these systems and all these different things that can support their child and their family at home. We did put the link of a video of our center, so you can get to know who we are, who some of our staff are, what we do, and get a little glimpse. It's not a long video, but it's very informative. Liz, do you want to expand on anything I may have missed?
I think just to expand a bit on the systems of care and navigation support, LA County is it's a dynamic and wonderful place to live when you're looking for the best of the best, but one of the most difficult to navigate, whether it's because of geography or sheer volume of people. We have just a lot of folks who live in LA County, and trying to access the services and supports and to know what and where to get them, trying to link California Children's Services and other levels of care for infants who are at risk, and having that work, nicely with your insurance companies and regional centers. Really before you wake up knee deep in alligators, let us help you figure out, who to call, where to call, and, how to link those services. We can't solve every problem that you ever have with navigating systems of care in LA County, but we will try our best. We will try harder than you could ever imagine, and we would be honored to try and help you sort things out. So give us a call, and definitely don't let yourself sink into something that is very frustrating. Let us assist.
And sometimes you might not even be aware of what systems of care are available. You just know maybe you're struggling financially, or you're struggling with, you don't have a coverage for certain medications, certain stuff that you're, needing to buy. It's okay to let your service coordinator know to call us, because we might have some resources for that. You just never know. Or we might know of a system that supports parents when they're going through something and can give you that resource. I know when my son John was smaller, I was not aware of everything that was available to help. Oftentimes when you have a loved one that has intense special needs, parents end up becoming a one-income household. And, I wasn't aware that there was things that can help you. Like I said, they all have protocols, but I wasn't aware that there was all these things that could help you available. And so that's what family resource centers were there for. We're there to help you understand and know what's available. Okay, so the next one is our parent role. And we wanted to talk about, as parents, my son's 28 now. He's diagnosed with cerebral palsy, and he was not born with the diagnosis. He suffered brain trauma at 5 months and developed cerebral palsy due to that. And as he got older, he also developed pretty intense medical needs. So he does need around the clock care. So John's like the pretty intense side of somebody who needs support. And then we have some that don't need a lot of support. It's just maybe there's the speech delay, maybe there's the sensory going on. But as parents, it's still, no matter what level of need it is, it's still our kid. We don't want our kids to struggle, right? We want them to have the best supports available so they can have an easier, successful, and independent life. So our focus is to empower parents to gather information necessary so they can make informed decisions to best support their child throughout their life. The more you know, the best you're going to support them, because you are ultimately the person they know the best. You are going to be with them throughout their whole lifespan. You're with them 24 hours. They might have a great teacher this year, and next year the teacher might not be as exciting as the one that was last year. And so one thing for sure is, throughout the years, that one person that will be there always, the constant, is the parent. And so we want to empower them to make sure they always know what's best for their child and know how important your role is. You may be the teachers, an advocate, the motivators, the reinforcers. You're the role models and helping your child achieve mutually satisfying roles in the family and society. And for a parent, knowing that a future beyond full dependence can await their child is great stimulus, the positive attitude necessary for confronting the unknown, which Liz mentioned can be scary and overwhelming, because there's so much new. You're learning things that you didn't know you were going to have to learn or do. It is a parent who will always be the constant in the child's life. So the parents are the ones who coordinate ideas, suggestions, and services to find the best approach to meet their child and family's particular situation. You are the expert in your child's life, and you'll hear us repeat that, throughout the presentation, because we want you to know how important your role is. You essentially are the most important person in life that knows them the best. And your expertise is just as important as anyone else on that table when discussing your child's needs, when suggesting things, when, seeing if things are going to work or not. And so we also encourage you to always emphasize the child's ability over the disability and focus on what is possible over what is not. We want to be positive about everything that we can do for our families and for our loved ones. Liz, do you have anything to add here?
I think you did a really great job. I think you covered as much of the information. People who know me know I could go on and on and on about this. I don't want to do that to y'all tonight. I would say that that every child is first and foremost. The most important role is that child is your child, and never lose sight of that. Such an important thing, and you are that child's voice until they become comfortable speaking up on their own behalf. You are that child's voice. Never be afraid to exercise your voice on behalf of your child.
We wanted to put this little early start community. It's like a little map of all the different places that can be of help for you, like the Family Resource Center, libraries, your child's any programs or schools or the local schools, childcare programs, preschools, pediatricians, so healthcare. And once again, this is something we'll email you this separately so you have it and you can download it. But it's just a really good map with links on things you can look into that'll help you out. So let's talk a little. Once again, might repeat ourselves in terms of what we've been saying, but this is so, something so important for us as a Family Resource Center and as parents. We want you to know that transition begins at birth, and there's always going to be transitions, and it's going to, some transitions are going to be more funner than others, but you're not alone. At the Family Resource Center, we're there to support you with whatever transitions you may be going through in life. A lot of those may be school related. A lot of them may just be life transitions. And so we want to ensure that you know that we're there to support you. Make sure that the people who make decisions about your child have met your child. If you were to read my son's chart, you would think that this is a person who is, not aware of his surroundings, can't voice his own opinion, needs total care, is very, very involved. And yes, physically, John needs a lot of support, but mentally, John's very bright. John understands Spanish and English. If you ask him yes, no questions right now, he can answer you. At one point, he used communication devices. And so I want people to know John, not the file John, not the report John, the real John. And so, when you meet with people, let them have a glimpse of your child, show that picture so they put a face to, to the name. Let them know who he is, what he likes, what he doesn't like, what's fun and powerful about your child, and what they like to do, so they get to know. And also you can even talk about what your child doesn't like, so that they know that. You want to build partnerships. Teamwork is extremely important. So I always tell parents, I know, working with systems can be scary. A lot of parents will tell other parents, bring an attorney or, bring an advocate. Please be open-minded. You don't need that until you see where it's going. Call our Family Resource Center. There are times you might need one, but be open-minded. Don't think because you had a bad experience with one professional that they're all like that. Give everybody the chance. And let everybody be on the same team, because you're there to support that one person, which is your child. And so everybody has to be at that same level. Everybody understand that the meeting is about that child and how everybody's going to work together to ensure that that child gets what the child needs. Don't be afraid to advocate, or, get information, ask questions, participate and learn. I know that that's something that I wish I would have done a lot more. I learned that working at the Family Resource Center, but when John was younger, I was a young parent. And so for me, this became really hard because I was very intimidated very easily. So looking back, there's so many things I wish I would have done differently, and definitely advocating and, in a positive way would have never hurt anyone. It would have only helped out. Asking questions when I didn't really know the answer would have been so helpful for me. Participate in trainings and meetings and read and learn as much as you can so that you're aware of the prognosis, the things that can help your child, where they're at. If you get reports, read them. Sometimes those reports aren't, what you think they are. And so read everything that has to do about your kid. And then the other, I think, important, other than empowering our parents for our center's inclusion. We're huge on inclusion, and inclusion is important everywhere, not only in, programs in school, but in your community, with your neighbors, with the movie theater, with the parks and rec, with the grocery store. If your kid's one of those kids that might have meltdowns, that screams a lot, that may, when overwhelmed, start doing stuff that, maybe they go into sensory overload and start acting a little, not, what other people may consider is, the norm. It's okay. We're there to teach other families about our loved ones, about patience, about understanding. And so the more that we include our loved ones in the community, the more people are going to, be more knowledgeable and educated. And it'll help our loved ones too. I know for John, we've always just included him. It's never, even if it was hard, if we had to pick him up first and then take his wheelchair to make him be able to go into a setting, we always figured it out. And because of that, I think that's why John is even so bright today, because he's just always been included. We always talk to him, even if he's nonverbal, really. He wants to know everything. So we include him in our conversations, even though we know verbally he's not going to say a lot, but with facial expressions, yes, no's, he still knows what's going on and feels very important to be included. And then make sure your feelings are valid. Don't be embarrassed about how you feel. Liz talked about that, and so glad she did, about all the different emotions you might be going through. No matter where you're at with your child, it's okay. Take time to take care of yourself and understand that what you're feeling is valid and it's okay. And there's so many ways to take care of yourself, even if you give yourself 5 minutes, journaling, meditating, praying, whatever it is that you need to be able to give yourself that little time to breathe and relax. And then find out who your support systems are. Is it your church, your neighbors, your family, your extended family, friends? Who are those people that can help you when you need that support? So those are all things that are really important. Liz, do you want to say anything?
There's a couple things I wanted to mention. The second bullet that he rated talked about, make sure the people who make decisions about your child have met your child. In the disability community, there's a saying that is nothing about me without me. And so I've kind of expanded on that to say that, whether it's a child with Down syndrome or a child with a learning disability, a child who may use hearing aids, or a child who just is a late talker or a late walker, it doesn't matter. You don't get to tell me how to take care of or treat my child if you've never met my child. My child is more than a chapter in a school book. He is his own unique person. And this goes for my younger son who doesn't have special needs, as well as my older son. So really, be respectful, but say to folks, you really got to meet him and know him before you make a decision about him. The other thing I would talk about a little bit more, inclusion is important everywhere. And, my heart is in inclusion. Our empowerment center here is based on inclusion in school and the community everywhere. Our children with any measure of special need or learning disability or difference, the bottom line is they were born in this world. If they're not given access to the world, if they are not given access to classrooms and community places like YMCAs and parks and recreation and community pools, houses of worship, grocery stores, malls, they don't learn to live well and comfortably in the world. We must make environments accepting and accessible for our children as they grow up into adults. And we also take that a next step and then kind of turn that into supporting them to learn their own level of independence and navigating this world, and so just really hold on to this. We don't need to separate our children. We need to find out how we can make every environment accessible and safe for our children.
So these are some things that I wish I would have known, and they might be helpful to you. We wanted to share. First of all, don't forget to be a parent. Enjoy your child, read to them, snuggle. Your love is the most important thing for them. Sometimes when we have a loved one with special needs, we fill our hours with therapies and just wanting to fix the situation and make it better. And we forget that at the end of the day, they're children and they need their parents. They need us to snuggle with them and read and, just show them how special and loved they are. And it can wear you out too, as a parent, and you may not even realize that that's because you're so overwhelmed trying to do so many things.
If I could also say that in your child's life, depending on their level of need. So maybe you have a child who needs a lot of therapy when they're young, maybe 5, maybe they've got 2 or 3 different therapists or teachers or specialists. But it's not unusual for young children to see 3, 4, 5, 6 different adults a week. What I say to families is, you are going to have specialists and teachers and coaches and therapists and coming in and out of your child's life, 20, 30, 40, who can even put a number on it? They have one mom and one dad. There is nobody more important to that child than you. And so give yourself that gift. Take as much time as you can to study and get to know this child up one side and down the other. You don't have to have a PhD after your name. You just need to be called mom. Nobody has more information about this child than you do. And so please don't give that up and give that over. I used to say to folks all the time that it wasn't until my second child was born, and there was 11 years difference between my first and second child, before I realized that I didn't have memories of reading goodnight books to my son. I didn't know what his favorite goodnight book was. I know we read them, but I can tell you without a doubt what it was for my youngest child. And I think I was so busy reading and trying to digest and learn that I just have not the memory I wish I would have. Don't take that away from yourself at all. And so that's very important.
Thank you, Liz. Also, being organized, it can seem like a lot more work for those people that are like me, where organized is not your strength, but it definitely saves you time, it saves you stress, and it helps you be more prepared. So if you start teaching yourself from a very young age of your children to be organized with their reports, their documents, their paperwork, it's definitely going to become a habit for you, and it's going to make your life so much more simpler. And I wish I would have started that a lot when my son was a lot longer ago. I also wish I would have kept numbers and contact resources that were given to me handy or in a special file, easy for me to access, because I think when John was very little, there was so much gone and I was so overwhelmed that I focused on the priorities, that what I thought were the priorities. And a lot of those resources that were given to me that were not the priorities were just kind of through, and I never glanced back. And it's telling me my internet connection is unstable, so I'm sorry if it's cutting off. And even now, supporting parents at the Family Resource Center, there's so many of them that say, "Oh, I never knew a Family Resource Center existed," and I believe them because that was me. But I'm almost sure at one point somebody told me about it, but it was probably not my priority at the moment because I was dealing with a new diagnosis, my emotions, all these different appointments that maybe it wasn't important at the moment. But I think during one of those few moments that I had free time, glanced over those documents again, those numbers, maybe something would have caught my eye and maybe I could have made that connection sooner. So whenever you get resources right now, put them to the side and go over them when you have a little bit of free time, because there's something in there that might be helpful and you just never knew about it. We also, want you to keep an agenda or a journal with contacts and notes, because guess what? You're going to be dealing with so many different people and programs, and it's so easy to confuse them. It's so easy to forget what appointments were when, with who, and it's just going to make your life so much more easier if you have, contact. If you're a techie person, you can do that on your phone. If you're not techie like me, I carry a little notebook in my purse just because it just makes my life easier with John. And it also makes me a better advocate because I have more my notes there, what happened, what I talked, when I submitted stuff like that. And I think we talked about this already, but asking questions, clarification, being confident, we're going to, just remind you about that, how important that is. You get to do that. You are the parent. Don't be embarrassed. Don't, take another person with you to those appointments. Take notes while you're at the appointments. If you didn't understand something they told you, it's okay for you to say, can you rephrase that? Can you explain it to me in a different way? Or I'm sorry, I don't understand that word. There are so many times I left the doctor's office not knowing what they said, so overwhelmed. I knew the information was important, but I was so intimidated and embarrassed to ask, like, what does that mean? That I rather not have asked. And looking back, I think, why would I have done that? And all I can tell you is that's who where I was at that moment. But that's something I want to share with you, because if that's you now, please, allow yourself the ability to not be afraid to ask questions. Also, we talked about how important your role is as a parent and the expertise you bring to that table. So don't let anyone ever take that away from you. You are, the person who knows your child the best. And you're going to be able to provide such valuable information in any setting that your child is at in terms of what they need, because you know them the best. Read those reports, make sure that they're describing your child and that they're meeting the needs of your child, or those recommendations. And listen to your parental gut feeling. Gosh, if I would have listened to my gut feeling, every time I thought something didn't make sense or something didn't feel right, I could have saved myself a lot of headaches. But unfortunately, I was pulled in so many directions that I, thought, I'm going to listen and to them because they're the professionals, even though my gut feeling was telling me, maybe you should ask again, or you shouldn't agree to that. So please, parents' gut feelings are usually right. Don't be afraid to say that, won't work. You're not creating conflict if you don't agree with someone, if you're letting them know it doesn't work for you, because it may not work. What people are recommending for your child, for your family, may not be something that's, you're able to commit to. So don't be afraid to say, that resource you gave me is great, but it's too far from my home. Or the time you're going to show up to my house to give my kid therapy, I appreciate it, but it's not going to work because I have my 3 other kids at home at the same time. Or, I don't have gas money to take my kid to all those therapy appointments 3 times a week. If you don't explain that it won't work, you'll never know that the resource is there. And that's why that diaper after John was 6 years old, because I finally said, I can't find diapers that fit anymore at the store, and I don't know where to go. And my service coordinator was like, oh my gosh, we can help you get some. If I wouldn't have asked, I wouldn't have known. And, and there's also times that my son's insurance wouldn't cover certain medications. And if I wouldn't have told the doctor, I can't afford that, is there a generic one available? There's parents who may have gone without the medication. So working at the Family Resource Center, we've met those families who just never showed up to the therapy because they were too embarrassed to say it was too far. They didn't have, transportation money. They couldn't get there and they just didn't show up. And, like, oh, they're going through, but it's not everything that is to a family has to be family centered. We have to look at whole family dynamics and ensure that it's working. And sometimes as professionals, we oversee that, we forget. And it's okay for you as a parent to remind us that it's not a fit for your family. It's okay to get second opinions if you didn't agree. If your gut is telling you that doesn't sound right, it's okay to do that. Or to ask, what do you mean by that? What's the outcome of that? If you're giving me that for my child, what does that mean? Don't feel that you're bugging, you're reaching out. Parents are like, oh, but I had already called and left several messages and no one called me back and I'm embarrassed. I feel like I'm bugging. You are not bugging. Service coordinators have a lot of cases, and sometimes we're human. We forget. We put you down that we're going to call you back, and then another call comes in, and it's that day's priority, and we totally forgot that we had this call to call back. It's okay for you. You're not bugging. You're helping us out by reminding us that we haven't gone back to you. So reach out whenever somebody was supposed to follow up with you, when you were supposed to already be receiving a service, when you haven't heard from someone and that report is due or that meeting was due, don't be afraid to call and say, hey, or shoot an email. What's going on? Can you give me an update? Is everything okay? You are not bugging anyone. You are looking out for your child. And then your child's behaviors. They're a form of communication, and communication is key. And I really like the way Liz explains this one, so I'm going to let her take this one because, and I'll just give you a little example about my son, John, and then let Liz take it on. But when John was almost 3 and he was, going to a little program, he started, my goal was always for John to walk. So all his little, whatever we were focused on was him walking. Any therapy that he was getting was focused on walking. And John started having behaviors, and I wasn't sure what was going on. He was usually, a very happy kid, didn't give anybody a hard time, but, we even had to meet about it. And what it was that John wanted to communicate. And we weren't focused on that. Was not one of his goals. And I, ignorantly as a parent, this is my, I had never known about supporting someone with special needs and someone who doesn't have the verbal skills at all to communicate. I was making all the choices for John. I thought, oh, well, he must love this toy. He must want to watch this show. He must want to, play with this toy right now. And I wasn't really allowing him to give me input or voices on even at a young age. And he had the total ability to do that. Even though he wasn't using words, he had the ability to communicate. And it took a teacher to tell me that, John is wanting to communicate. Why don't we make that his goal and, walking secondary? And so we changed his whole goals to focus on communication. And can I tell you that I think, that's what's helped John get along so far, even with all of his, needs, is the ability to be able to communicate. Like I said earlier, various different methods. We still get to know what he needs, what he wants. I mean, there's times that it's hard because he's nonverbal, but for the most part, we get to know what John needs, and he got to be more, he picks his own clothing, he picks his own food, he picks where he wants to go. Everything's about choices for John, and that's important for anyone. So I'll let Liz talk because I also like the examples she gives in terms of communication. But that was my example of how it helped my son.
So, I'm going to have us do kind of an activity, and it's not, you're going to think, oh my gosh, that's the last thing I want to do. I want you to clear your head as much as you can. And I want you to think, not a lot, a little, about the last argument that you got into with somebody that you really care about. Whether it's a husband or wife or partner, significant other, mom, dad, sibling, coworker. I'm almost certain that during the kind of argument that one of you said, you aren't hearing me. You're not listening to me. So we say that behavior, and by behavior, I mean, acting out behavior, frustrated behavior, angry behavior, tantruming behavior, is about 99% communicative intent. They're trying to say something and you just are not hearing it. So that's where the acting out comes. That's communication. And so it really is our responsibility to give them the tools that they need, any way that they can communicate, whether it's baby signs, which young children, babies, toddlers love to learn. So more, cookie, want, mom, dad. It is so fun for them to learn and very easy for them to pick up. And you will see an incredible difference. If your child is a late talker and they don't have a lot of words, imagine that you live 24/7 in a world where, you're really hot and somebody's, giving you a jacket and putting a blanket on you because they assume that you're cold. Or you're done, you're not hungry at all, and somebody's putting a sandwich in your face. So imagine that you're living in a world where you can't get your point across. You're frustrated, you're angry, you're scared, you're tired, you want to play more. I mean, whatever it is, and hope that makes it a little clear. Behavior is rarely ever a choice. It is a reaction to a situation that they don't have the words to explain. And so when you look at it like it isn't a choice, then it allows you to take it less personal, right? And so, because as parents, we often do, I can't tell you how many times I would be like, oh my God, I've told you and told you and told you, why are you not doing this? Well, you may have told them why not to do it in one situation, but now they're in a different situation and it felt like it would be okay. And so really try not only to find creative ways to help build communication with your kids, whether it's sign language, gesturing, just talking, always keep them in a language enriched environment. Really look at screen time. I cannot tell you the amount of times I've been in a restaurant and I've seen a toddler with a device and a mom or a dad or whomever on a cell phone. And it blows me away. So really take that opportunity to interact when you're with your children. If you're in the car, and you can't think of anything to say because you've been chatting all day. Look at, honey, there's a blue car. I see a blue car. There's a black car. Oh, there's a big truck. And yeah, some days you're going to be like, I can't do this anymore. And some days you really get into it. So give yourself that opportunity and understand that communication is so important to so many other aspects of our kids' lives.
Thanks, Liz. And like Liz said, there's different methods. You can use ASL, you can use picture boards. A lot of kiddos use little, pictures for routines to let them know, what bedtime is, when brushing your teeth time is, and it allows them to see the picture and what the picture means and then the words, and then they get familiar even with the words. So there's many tools you can use.
Well, and I think, the other piece they rated that's so important for parents and I was guilty of this. I was actually given the option of having my oldest son begin to learn sign language when he was 18 months old. And for whatever reason, I bought into, if he learns sign language, he'll never learn to speak. Absolutely not true. Not a shred of data on that. Absolutely not true. What it does is it actually allows children to oftentimes speak earlier and quicker because it frees up the part of the brain that's so frustrated and angry and confused. Children who can't form words oftentimes see them clearly or hear them clearly in their brain. They just can't get them out of their mouth. And that's really what lends itself to frustration. Also look into, baby signs for young children, which are pretty much just the word, cookie, sandwich, no, yes. And so you don't even have to get into the whole, kind of very challenging dynamics of ASL. You can really just do singular words. And I encourage you to try it if you have young children. The response from them, the look of joy on their face is going to be really worth it.
Thanks, Liz. So moving along, we already talked about finding time to take care of yourself, but we just want to remind you that's extremely important to do that. You can get lost, in trying to care for your loved one when they're little and just, giving them all your time, sacrificing your own personal needs. But it catches up with you as an older parent. I want to tell you, please, please invest in yourself. You're not being selfish by doing that. We all need it to remain healthy, to be able to care for them better. And it's something that we all deserve. So, with that said, don't feel guilty asking for help. What your village, who is your support system, if you need, to vent, if you need to take a long shower, if you need to eat comfortably without having, to take care of someone, it's okay to seek that extra help. We don't have to be super moms, we don't have to be super dads all the time, Take at a time. I had to learn that myself, to just, if I didn't do everything I was supposed to do that day that I set out to do, it's okay. And it's okay to have lazy days. It's okay to let your kids have lazy days, because sometimes we're just exhausted. You can make up for it. Believe me, that energy that you saved on that day, you really feel you can give anymore, is gonna be so much better the next day. You're just gonna get it all back. So allow yourself, to do what you can one day at a time, with what with what you have. Um, Looking back, I used to feel guilty about, the things I'm sharing with you that I could have done different. But I look at it now as that's what I did with what I knew back then, with who I was back then. Um, Moving forward with John's life now, it's just doing what I can with what I know, not feeling guilty about what I could have done, but helping others, be aware of what I wish I would have known. And believe in your child. The sky's the limit. Don't let anyone tell you what your child will not do. Nobody can tell you that, only your child. And I can guarantee you, even sometimes kids know, they do way more than what we think they're capable of doing. So, always think outside the box, give them the benefit of the doubt, be their biggest cheerleader. Only allow people to work with your children that believe in them just as much as you do. Because those teachers who believe, sometimes the teachers who are a little more like demanding from the kiddos, is because they believe, they know that the kid can give more, and they're asking. I remember John had a teacher who specialized in communication, and she did not play around. And most of the kids in John's class had, pretty strong needs. They were all in wheelchairs. All of them had communication devices. But she made them work hard for it because she believed in them. And I think those were John's best life, years of where he experienced the best. And all that followed him throughout his life. Like that's where he gained the most skill. And it was, I think, because she was just so good at knowing what each kid had to give. And she was not going to let them give themselves, less. She made them prove to her who they could be and what they could do. Do you want to say anything, Liz?
I guess if I could add one more bullet here, I would say, again, and repeating ourselves, the most important thing, aside from just building that relationship and, being your child's best advocate, let your kid be a child. Sometimes, when we get a diagnosis or we get information, people will say, well, he needs, 3 hours of this and 6 hours of this. You'll hear phrases like, if he doesn't do this by age 3 or by age 5. And what I really want y'all to know is that each and every one of us, I've never met a person. I'm 61 years old. I have never met a person who is not a lifelong learner. I've never met one in all of my years. Now, that doesn't mean there weren't some that I just didn't know about, but we all learn throughout our life. So when folks say to you, if you don't do this before he's 3, or if you don't do this before he's 5, then guess what? You do it before he's 7 or 9 or 11. We never plateau. Our learning never plateaus. Let that child be a child. Let them play t-ball. Don't take them to, let them learn naturally and let them get activities and experiences through natural opportunities. You can still do the therapies and the special treatment and the special classes, but don't make them hand over their childhood just because of a diagnosis. And that to me is super important.
Absolutely, Liz. Thanks. So we're going to move along, and Liz wanted to share her son, Jace. This is one-page profile. Sorry that it's not, I don't know if you can see it very well, but she's going to explain it. This is the best we could do when we copied it into the PowerPoint. Do you want to do it from here, Liz, or do you want me to close this and try to open the actual?
No, we're good. This can, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. There was, Stephen Browning did a presentation on one-page profiles. So this is a kind of a follow-up to that. And I want to kind of take it in a few different directions. The thing I love about one-page profiles, we've always done them in one form or another, at least my family, even when my son was 2.5. We did something very similar. We called it a vision statement and talked about, what he did best in and how he did best with different things. And now it's kind of morphed and it's a one-page profile. It's also referred to as a one-page description. I care less about what they call it. I care a lot more about what's involved in it. Throughout your child's life, there's going to be different situations, whether it's signing up for the Y or starting a new preschool, maybe going to see a new doctor or a dentist, maybe it's a Boy Scout or Girl Scout or Brownie troop, dance class, karate class. Maybe it's an auntie that hasn't met them yet, or cousins, or neighbors. There are so many wonderful ways that you can share about what I consider to be all of the really important information about your child on one page, because it really talks about the 3 key areas. What people like and admire about the child. So in this case, Jace was fully participating in this. And so it was my son, Jace. And so what was important? What do people like and admire about Jace? What is important to Jace? And how do people best support him? And so I'm going to go over a few of these. Jace was supposed to be here with us, and he got a smidge of laryngitis, and enough that you could, his voice sounds a little bit like he ate his computer tonight. And so we decided that, so we sat down with him. I did, one of his really good friends did yesterday. I did on Saturday, his friend yesterday, and then somebody who works with him sat down with him today. And he really thought it was important for me to share with you all that he liked the part of this he likes the most. The first is knowing what people like and admire about him, because it isn't always easy for him to know that people see that. Sometimes folks see Jace and they first see that he's a man with Down syndrome. But they don't know that he is caring and thoughtful. He's an extraordinary employee. He is a very lovely, committed, and generous boyfriend. He's a great teacher. He's very good utilizing sign language and will teach anybody how to do it. He's very busy. He's an incredible host. Yesterday, we were celebrating a friend's birthday, and before we knew it, he had gone with me. Before we knew it, he had all the plate, everything was cleaned off the table. He wiped everything down. Everything was in the kitchen, took it from the patio to the kitchen. And that was just Jace. He's a very good team player. He's very talented. And very committed. So when he decides that he's going to do something, he's committed to following it through. The other thing that he thought was really important was that folks understood how to best support him. And one of the, so he talks about on this page that when he's at work, it's helpful if someone can help him to interact with his supervisor. So he knows that he's doing what his supervisor wants him to do. And he's on target with that. And that he knows that she knows that he's trying to do the best he can and to cover all the areas that she needs. Another part in here is that it's important that people know that he has an incredibly high pain tolerance. And, a lot of young children have this as well. Jace has taken it into adulthood. And that's important because, he had a horrible back injury. None of us really knew the extent of it. He ended up having a very serious back surgery right in the middle of COVID. And nobody around him it's like, how could you have had this and not share with us? In retrospect, we saw that there were many things that he did behaviorally, showing us he was sleeping more. He would, when he would walk to his room, sometimes his shoulder would touch the wall, and I didn't think anything of it. And now, of course, I know that he was leaning on it for balance. Knowing what is unique to our kids. When Jace was younger, I would write things out and I would say, interesting. We don't know how he developed a real fear of rabbits, but I always put that in there, because if there was a teacher in first or second grade that had bunnies or rats in their room, that was not the room for him to be in. And he needed to be in the room where the teacher had fish or a kitty or something, but not bunnies or rats. And so I encourage you to do this. When we talked about earlier, nothing about me without me, what a great demonstration of that. Because for those folks who've never had an opportunity to meet your child, you're letting them know what scares them. Maybe they're a child who, if you just reason with them a little bit, they're going to understand and follow, and follow the rules and be a lot calmer. Maybe they're somebody who they don't react to a loud voice, or they don't react to language being said quickly. I am a fast talker, and people will have to say to me sometimes, Liz, slow down, because there are folks who do not process language as quickly as you're speaking it. And those types of information pieces about your loved one are so important. It's important to Jace that that he navigate his life as independently as he can. You can suggest that he wear one thing over another. There's always a reason he chooses what he's going to wear. And he's a very snazzy dresser, so I just kind of step back. But the last thing he would ever need is somebody saying, "Oh, no, honey, you need to wear that." That would not work with him. And people need to know that. They also need to understand that he understands everything that is said to him. He doesn't respond the same way that the rest of us do. And sometimes he has to repeat himself. He is the most patient communicator ever that I've ever known in my life. He'll say it a couple of times. He'll take you to it. He'll say it in sign language. He'll take out his phone and bring up a picture of it. It's super important to people who support him and are in his life that he puts so much value on communication that he'll put that much effort into it. So when you're doing these for your children, think about what makes them the happiest, how people can support them the best. What resonates with them, what you want people to know about them. Know that you might update this form 2 or 3 times a year. And sometimes, when your kids get older, it doesn't get updated nearly as much. But you could update it every month, as people come in and out of your child's life, as they learn new skills. You learn that they love to do poetry, but they hate to read. That's really important. That they actually have demonstrated that they can learn best when it's set to music. Schoolhouse Rock. All of those things that are just really important and make your child's life easier. I think that each and every one of us should have this. We've done this at work with our coworkers. It's really important. What a nice way to say, here's a way that you can get to know me, help me, support me, and you can know what I can bring to every relationship. And so I very much encourage you all to sit down. You can find many, many samples of this online. They're called one-page descriptions or one-page profiles. They have many templates. Fill it in, print it out, start handing them out. So.
I think this is great. I wanted to add that it may look different for everyone, but as long as you have something, I usually do this for John, and even put one of these in his backpack so that if, let's just say his bus gets stranded or there's an emergency and people who don't know him have to support him, they have a glimpse of how to support John best, how he communicates, would be the best way to approach the situation. And as they get older, it's important to include them because this should be there. He made with all Jay's. I actually was honored to be able to Jay, be part of his person-centered plan, which brought, out his one-page profile. And I apologize. I don't know what's going on with my internet. But it was such a joy to be able to see, Jay's just give us all this information. And then as a team, be able to validate that, yes, that's exactly what Jace wants, is who we know Jace is. I mean, this is the best description of him. So thank you, Liz, for sharing the profile of Jace. It's beautiful. And I know it took a lot of work from all of you and him to put this together, but what a great tool for him to be able to use. Well, that came to the end of our presentation with a brief sign, because I know we gave you guys a lot of information, a lot of tips, and a lot of tools to take away today. This is our contact information, mine and Liz's, and our email, our direct phone number. But I also encourage you to visit the website and also sign up for the newsletter that Regional Center has, because it has a list of all of the events that not only Regional Center hosts, but that we host. And it just keeps you informed in terms of what Regional Center is doing for the community, which I myself as the parent, sometimes should be taken advantage of, and I'm not. And then you ask these, why don't I know about this? But it's there, the information's there. Also, they're recording most of these presentations now, but they're all on a YouTube channel. So you can go back and look at all of the archived videos that we have of past presentations, so that if you're a busy person, but you have time at night or sometime during the day to get away and look at these videos, I really highly recommend you do that.
I guess at this point, I'm curious if any of the folks here have any questions.
Somebody put that this was very helpful and relatable, and they thanked us. So thank you, Justin. We appreciate that. And if you're shy and you have questions later, or you can't think of questions right now, please feel free to reach out to us. We can support you later on. We can, if we don't have the answers, we try to connect you to others that might, like Liz said, but we'll work hard on it, even if we don't have the answers sometimes.
I guess with that, we're going to finish up. Thank you very much. Thank you for attending.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thanks to the translators. Thank you always for such a great job. We really appreciate you.